Hello, everybody. Welcome to 1v1 here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, ADV. Joining me is the wise Wisconsin knight, Mr. Jesse Douglas.
How's it going?
We have a fantastic guest coming from all the way from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He is comedian, stand-up, stand-up, and I don't know if you do any writing or anything, like show writing
stuff. Nothing's ever been published.
Okay.
I haven't done a ton, Ed. I haven't done a ton.
And he is host of the LMNO podcast.
Yeah.
Please, everybody, welcome Stu McCallister.
Yay! Thanks, Ed. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse.
You are welcome.
Hey.
How are you? How are you doing?
Woo! It's been a weird day today, but I'm doing all right, man. It's always weird when you're self-isolating and staying at home and just trying to find healthy things to do. My neighbors are freaking out. I've had weird situations the last couple of days with neighbors, but it's all good. All good.
No, that's just make you want to just drink some coffee and laugh at them and just be like, what nonsense are y'all doing? y'all doing the most.
Yeah.
When it should be the least.
Pretty much, man. It's weird because even when this is all over, they're still going to be my neighbors. So I got to figure out how to deal with these people, like at least be copacetic with them, you know?
Yes. So we have Stu on here. He has had a journey in comedy, and now he hosts his own podcast. Oh. And so we're gonna kind of go back from the beginning where everything started. What made you get into comedy, like being a stand-up comedian?
Oh, I've always been a bit of a wise ass, Ed. I always thought I was kind of funny. I was never the class clown. I was the guy making fun of the class clown. That's who I was. I was that guy. And I was just a big fan of stand-up. I just like comedy and going, and I like laughing. I think everybody was like, oh, I love laughing. And so I would go to shows. And here in Grand Rapids, the comedy club is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then on Thursday night, before the professionals get on, they would do an open mic. And I used to go on Thursdays because it was half price night. Everybody loves a bargain, right?
Yes.
I would go on Thursday, and I'd see the open micers. And more often than not, I was like, these guys suck. And so I felt like I had to prove it to myself that I could be just as funny, if not funnier, than those guys. So then I got my my skits and my bits together, and I got on stage, and it went all right, and it just kind of went from there. And then 16 years later, I'm in my spare bedroom podcasting with you guys. So that's how it goes.
Oh wow! How is it writing writing comedy, like writing jokes and stuff? Like, do you make yourself laugh first, or it's just like you in your head, just like, what would be funny, or what's the ironic thing?
For me, Ed, it's always like I have to be true to myself. If I think it's funny, then I'm going to say it, and then I just kind of hope like you guys think it's funny, and then I'm like, I'm onto something. But I don't want to try to make something that's going to make you guys laugh, and then I'm just like, because then it's not a true thing, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I usually write about myself because nobody can get mad if I write a joke about me, right? So if I call myself an idiot or I'm a moron, I do something stupid, nobody can be mad. Like, I can do political jokes or religious jokes, but then somebody's going to be in the corner that'll be like, I don't like that. So if I just write jokes about me, then there you go. And then I can get political or whatever within those jokes. But I like writing about me. Self-centered. I'm self-centered, Ed.
But do you feel? Because I think political jokes are probably not the most controversial ones, but they are the funny ones because it's just like you on the outside looking in. You as politicians are not catching the joke, the craziness. Like, what you stand for is not the stuff that you're doing. So we're going to put it in a satirical way so people can laugh.
Right. I would agree. I mean, just look at like all the late night talk show hosts today, right? Everybody who's doing stuff, it's all political stuff. They're killing. People kind of look to them as like the voice of reason. Mm-hmm. So you also, you got to do it in a way that's smart. And it hits really well. I've heard a lot of guys do political jokes that just are kind of sloppy and aggressive or mean or whatever. And those never work. So you look at the big guys like Kimmel and Noah Trevor and Jon Stewart when he was doing it, Colbert. I mean, those guys are they're A game. So it's great when they're doing it and they're hitting it hard. So I don't begrudge any of those guys.
And no I'm not going to let you ask a question, Jesse. No disrespect to Republicans, but it looks like when comedians are making fun of Republicans, that's the best laugh that people get. If you literally go back before Obama came in and you look at all the George Bush Jr. jokes that came out of everywhere, it was just like, this is pure comedy. This is the high ratings. You tune in because you just like, you want to see what nonsense this man has said and done, and just see all these comedians respond to that to make people laugh.
A lot of politicians are giving you gold. President Trump is giving you gold each and every day. You're just like, I couldn't write this as a comedian, and he's living that life. You're like, what is going on in your brain right now?
I almost crashed my car when I heard that he was making a thing called the Space Force. I was like, wait, what? I was driving, and I would literally just like, I got to pull over. I didn't know nothing about this. I got off of work, and he said, yeah, we're making a thing called the Space Force. I'm like, what B-movie material is this?
He sounds like a 10-year-old, doesn't he? He's just like coming up with these weird ideas. He's in the sandbox going, let's send guys into space and they're going to have guns and pew, 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 Space Force. It's crazy. It's nonsense.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, is like when George Bush Jr. or whatever was president, people probably thought there'll never be an easier time to come up with jokes, but boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, it's always the best when the people in charge are saying dumb things and they're doing dumb things. Yeah. For comedians, it's great. Like when Obama was in office, I mean, what did Obama really give us as comedians? He just really didn't give us a ton. So he sucked. As a comedian, Obama sucked.
I think he gave comedians a lot because Obama was smooth with his comedy and his shade. Yeah. You know, like when he had
his mic drop.
the mic drop, the Lion King thing he did at the correspondence dinner. It was just like, Obama knows the joke. He knows that when he's being made fun of or what people say, he know he could spin it still, tell everybody, yeah, it's all good and dandy, but this is the serious thing. It still provide a serious thing.
He was part of it. He had a sense of humor about it, and that's what you like. Yeah. Like George W. and Donald Trump, they don't seem to have a sense of humor. You never really see those guys laugh or smile, and when they do, it's kind of like, oh, you're an Austin Powers villain, is what it kind of comes across as. So,
it's almost too bad that like love him or hate him, George Bush Jr. Like the way he is now, though, it's like, why couldn't you have been like this when you were president? Why couldn't, and I mean, it is what it is, but like, I'm also, when it comes to politics, I'm okay admitting when they're, when they do, if there's someone I don't like, they do something right. And like, we've kind of heard about it recently in the news and stuff like that. But apparently, George Bush Jr. had, kind of been reading a book about pandemics and thought it would be a good thing that we kind of prepare for something like that to happen. And unfortunately, a lot of the people around him didn't take it too seriously. And I think we did do something because of him, but we could have did a lot more. And, so it's, and then like that, that and mixed with, how you see him acting now, it's just like, why couldn't you have been a little bit more, like you can still be, be like the leader of a country and have a sense of humor, and we're seeing that, a little bit of that now from him, but now it's like it's too late.
The weirdest part about your whole statement there, Jesse, is that you said George W. read a book. I find that hard to believe. Hard to believe that he read a book. But if you say so, I'll take it. I'll take your word, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the best comedy to me in real life is seeing it at retail. It is I know people who are shoppers, but when you actually work at retail, you see the most wildest things, and it creates stories. Like you literally could be a stand-up comic coming out of retail. It just tell the most amazing stories, because that's what most comedies are. There are stories that you are telling.
Yep.
You know,
relatable stuff.
Yes.
Everybody's been in Walmart. Everybody's seen the lunatics. So like, yes, I saw that guy yesterday. I know what you're talking about. So yes, very relatable stuff. I agree. Retail, man, gives you a lot of fodder.
Have you picked up on the term Karen?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. A lot of Karens want to talk to the manager. Yeah. It's awful.
Speaking of Walmart, I remember the time, I think I told you about I told you about this. I was at Walmart. I got out of my car. I got out, and then I just happened to glance into the car next to me. And now, mind you, I'm in Wisconsin, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But so I got out, and I just happened to look into the car next to me, and there's just a whole bunch of like empty beer bottles and stuff just sitting on the ground. And then there was one that was half drank sitting in the holder for the cup holder area, which means they obviously were drinking. Yeah. But I was just like, man, I mean, to just have it out in the open like that and just not even care.
Who cares, man? It's Friday night. Let's get drunk, man. Going to the Walmart.
I used to work at JCPenney outlet where clothes, and it's just I could tell the story. This lady, she was looking for her keys, and she couldn't find him. So while she was in our store, she was taking stuff out of her purse. The next thing you can see is one of those big 40-ounce cans, kind of like Michelob. She put it out, and I was just like, she came prepared to be drunk. And the thing about it is because she had been drinking. She found her keys somewhere. She had all these beer cans in her car, and she had the big Michelob. She called the police to come help her find her keys. Oh. And it was just like, you
don't want to do that, lady.
Exactly. She was not thinking. I was just like, wow. But
that's her everyday life, though, probably, right? She does this every day. She's got to carry that 40 in her bag or whatever to get through life. It's funny and it's sad and it's reality, though. It's crazy.
Yeah, my mom's cousin lives in Illinois, and anytime that I would go to do anything with him, he's got one of those big, massive bottles of vodka that he keeps in the trunk of his car. So whenever we would go to see a movie at the theater, and he says it's because of his anxiety, but I'm like, yeah, there's medication for that. Like I'm on medication for anxiety. It's like, and it's completely gone. I love it. But, he would just drink, like he had like a little, glass, measuring cup.
Like a Pyrex
he'd be like,
cup?
okay, he'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna be. He was one of those. It's like, okay, so this movie is about 2 hours and 15 minutes long, so I can have this much and not be drunk by the time that I have to drive again. Like that's what he would do every time. That's
not anxiety. That's alcoholism.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly. Yeah,
it's alcoholism.
Exactly. That was just his excuse.
right. Hilarious, man. It's rationalization, and it's sad that people got to think that way. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's hard as a comedian when you see family members like that, and when you get on stage, or if you're writing like just a skit or something, and you're being, like you said, being true to yourself, but you're writing out people that you know, kind of, you're writing out people's choices that they make in life, and you making it funny.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever done that or anything? Like, or been through that? Like, seeing a friend or family member who's gone through something and you use it as writer material? Something.
It happens. It's going to happen with everybody because you're just going to look at someone and you're a moron, and I need to talk about this on stage so other people know that you're a moron as well. For me, it's been a lot of ex-girlfriends. I've talked about them. I've talked about some coworkers because it needs to be said. And this is a funny story, and I need to share it with the world. So, but you try to do it in a way that like maybe it's embellished a little bit. Clearly, you change names or whatever. But if they were ever to come to a show, they'd be like, "Oh, you motherfucker! You were talking about me up there." I'm like, yes, I was. Yes, I was.
And this is like you really can't lie because you can't be like, well, was I?
Right.
I mean, because I'm like, right, because if I'm telling the truth, that means that you're just admitted to something that.
Yeah. Are you sure you're not just projecting yourself onto me?
Exactly.
Exactly. It would be sad if I wasn't joking about them. I was joking about another idiot who did the exact same thing. So,
Yeah.
What was your inspiration for comedy? Like, was it TV shows, other stand-up comedians, or anything?
It was probably when I was in middle school and high school. I watched Saturday Night Live a whole lot. And this was back in the day and age of VCRs. Do you guys remember VCRs?
Yep. I have one.
Yeah. There you go. I would tape Saturday Night Live, and then on Sunday I would watch it with my dad. And then he and we would just watch it, and we'd laugh at certain things, and then we'd talk about dumb skits ourselves. So I think a lot of it was just kind of maybe that was the impetus for it. It was not necessarily a specific comedian. In my day and age, it was Pryor and Carlin. Kinnison was the guy at the time as well. But none of those guys were like, oh, I want to be like him. I want to do what he does. I mean, I appreciated what they did, but it was never quite like that. So but I think that's probably where it started from. High school, just kind of watching Saturday Night Live with my dad.
Yeah. Well, and it's, it's one of those things too, like you were saying earlier that, sometimes, if you find it's really super easy to make your friends laugh and you enjoy making people laugh. And then at some point you're just like, I wonder if I could take this to the next level and try to make, a crowd of people laugh.
Sure. And that's the thing too. You got to remember, like, making your buddies laugh is easy because you all have the point of reference. Like, everybody knows Larry, and Larry did something dumb, and then you guys laugh about it. But then if I were to tell a story about Larry on a stage to everybody, like 150 people have no clue who Larry is, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So you always got to change the wording and change the timing and everything else to make the masses enjoy it as well too. So it's different. It's different.
Yeah. Or you could be the Impractical Jokers and just run around saying, Larry!
Yes. You could be like those guys. Those guys made a career out of it. Good for them.
Yeah. I like that show.
I know watching a lot of other TV shows and a lot of movies, you catch what they're saying and you try to use it in real life and stuff, or they'll quote something and you try to like repeatedly use it, like Mighty Python and the Holy Grail, when they say get on with it, and it's just like you like sometimes that little comedic bit you'll use in real life. Have there been movies or stuff that you like took in a quote and just like you might have used it in the show, but you use it like in real life sometimes?
I was a big fan of the movie Clerks. Did you guys see Clerks? Kevin Smith's first big movie. I mean, I just used to quote lines from that a whole lot. 37 Dicks. I just love the inappropriateness of it, the language. I mean, that was a movie to me that just really hit because that was a movie that was going to be like rated like NC-18 or whatever the hell it was. That really weird thing solely for language. There was no violence or sex or nothing. Just guys saying fuck every 3 words, whatever. So to me, I love that movie and just the expression that happened and just the interaction that all those guys had. So for me, Clerks was a big movie that I repeat quote lines from.
Yeah. And that's like that, and that kind of stuff is really what hit with me. Like I wouldn't say really in general throughout my life, I I mean, I swore, but like it wasn't that often, or like, there were times in my life when I would be not necessarily offensive, but like my dad had a friend that he would drink with and stuff a lot every night, and he was balding and stuff like that, and he would give me shit, so then I would just throw it right back, and I would come up with these really insulting burns to him and stuff.
Nice.
and he would just laugh about it though, but like I've always found that like the more, for me personally, the more like insulting or even offensive that comedy is, I just absolutely love it. Like, we
were talking about Dave Attell.
Yeah.
Dave's great.
David, yeah. His that first album that he released, like I've probably listened to that album like at least 1,000 times.
Sure.
And like Gilbert Gottfried is like by far like one of my favorite. I just love how offensive he is, and like like when the whole thing happened with the Affleck,
right,
his Affleck thing, I'm just like, what did you expect? Like,
when they hired him?
When they fired him because he made a joke about
the tsunami.
Yeah, and they fired him, and I'm just like, well, I understand that's probably something you don't want to be affiliated with, but
sure,
you probably should have thought about that when you hired him in the first place for that voice.
Gilbert was the guy who apparently they attribute the whole "too soon" phrase to, because apparently he told a joke about the Twin Towers like a week later or something, and someone yelled out "too soon," and so I'm with you of like, this is the guy that you hire. What do you think he's going to say, right?
Yeah.
He's going to say something dumb or weird or whatever, and that's what you hired, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's kind of why when Michelle Wolf was on the Correspondents' Dinner and she was making fun of all of that stuff going on, and they were just like, well, we didn't expect her to say that. I'm like, her material has been out for years. She's on the Daily Show. She has written stuff. So it's just like, you can't act like you don't know what a comedian is going to do or say. If the material is out there, like we say, do some research.
Right.
Yeah.
At the club here in Grand Rapids, Dr. Grins, I mean, every once in a while people will complain about whatever act they see. And I'm like, that's your fucking fault. Because there's websites and YouTube clips and Comedy Central specials or Netflix that you can do a little bit of research and go, oh, this guy is too offensive or too political or whatever, and then you make the decision. It's on. You don't just go to a movie theater and go, I want what's in theater 6, and then you go in and you're like, oh, I don't like this. What did you give me? Like you do a little bit of research. So
well, and like that's the thing. Like I'm the type of person where, like I said, there, none of it offends me. Sure, I'm sure there's like comedians that I might not care for as much as others, but like just appreciating comedy as a whole, like I'm most likely, regardless of who it is, probably gonna enjoy it. Because it's fun to, I like seeing, I've gone to local stuff where it's just people I've never heard of or whatever, or even like I went to go see a big guy and then someone that I absolutely never heard of opened up for them, and I absolutely loved them just as much as I liked the person that they were opening up for.
It's great.
Before this whole virus stuff with having kids, like me and my wife don't go see movies, don't go do much of that, barely any at all anymore. But like, if I had the chance, I would honestly go every weekend and go watch people, because I just love it. It's
a great thing, man.
Yeah, and I there was a point when I was like in the loop of like comedy that was going on and stuff like that, but I feel so lost now when it comes to comedy, other than like podcasts and stuff is really, all I really have a chance to listen to anymore. So
there's a lot that comes at you, I mean, there's a ton of late night talk shows, Netflix, Comedy Central, people just throwing out stuff on YouTube now on their own. I mean, it's hard to keep up with everybody. So I don't blame you, man. I'm overwhelmed and I'm in the business.
Because like I love listening to Lewis Black because as much as political as he gets, when he talks about politics and he talks it in whatever manner that he just like, look, dummy, this is what's going on. Pay attention. Right. You know, it's always, he keeps it real, but he keeps it funny and everything.
Lewis is great for me because he'll take a relatively complex situation or problem, and then he just gets rid of all the excess stuff, and he's like, "This is it. This is the problem right here." Yeah. And you're stupid if you don't get it. And I love him because he's this old man who's freaking out, and you're pretty sure he's going to die one day. So, and he's going to die on stage.
And I think,
but I love that smart comedy like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, like where you can tell that this isn't just a joke. There was a lot more than just writing a funny haha that, you know, was put into this, you know, like what he's doing, which is, you know, like, you know, George Carlin did a lot of that too, like where, you know, it came off really super funny, or, you know, he'd come up with these big, like, elaborate jokes, and then, you know, the next thing you know, then he's like, you know, why did they put a cock on top of a barn or whatever, and, you know, doing those little funny jabber ones in between. But it's, I got to see him before he died, and I was so glad.
He was a guy I missed. I never saw George. I wish I had, man. You know, missed out.
So before we get into like going to, you know, talking about the radio show, how do you view comedy now? How, like, from veterans to up and coming and stuff, do you think that because there's been a change in how people tell jokes, or in subject matters that is hard to touch, do you think comedy is going in a different way, and people are there's a different route, or do you think there's just now you got to do a new shtick to be a comedian?
Ooh, you asked a whole lot of stuff there, Ed. I think comedy's fine. I think the state of comedy is fine. I know they talk a lot about like PC stuff, and you know, being PC is destroying comedy. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, again, getting back to the whole thing, you got to be true to yourself. An audience will find you as long as you're funny. An audience will eventually find you, PC or not PC. Like, I don't want to say I'm not PC. I like to swear a whole lot, and I say dumb things. I'm not going out of my way to try to offend anybody. If I do, I apologize, but that's on you. That's not on me. It was not my intent to do it. I think people are definitely getting smarter, Ed. Like you talked about how you like smart comedy. I think for the most part, the comedy is becoming smarter, and you're needing to be more original and more truthful. So I think ultimately it is getting better. And it's definitely getting more and more accessible through podcasts and everything on the internet. So it's a good thing, I think. It's a good thing. But the hard thing, though, is standing out. Like, how does Stu McCallister stand out from all these other comedians that are coming out? So then that's where I have to find, like, my shtick, my persona, my point of view. And then hopefully people like it and kind of come along with it. So that's it.
Yeah. Because go ahead, Jesse.
I was just gonna say, like, one thing, like, I know you joke about being like a failed comedian and stuff, but you do still do it occasionally when you get the chance. Is that kind of how you're doing it right now? Is you just kind of you know, when you really want to get out there, because that was something I was going to ask you about, like, is, you know, how much you in like, if you really enjoy that part of it, of the getting up in front of people, or if that was something that you had to get over, or, you know, like, at first.
I think every comedian, I think, will tell you that they love getting in front of people. They love getting on stage. They love making people laugh.
Yeah.
If a comedian says they don't like that, I don't know why they're doing it then. Like, you should have stopped a long, long time ago. I love pretty much everything about comedy other than the business aspect, right? Mm-hmm. Business always kind of gets in the way. And I'm going to tell I jokingly say I'm a failed comedian. Mm-hmm. Things didn't quite go as I would have wanted or expected. And I've gotten to a certain age where I feel like I need to just kind of like reevaluate a whole lot of stuff. Like working the road is pretty grinding. And I'm 50 years old. Do I want to be like in my car every weekend driving 10 plus hours at a time? Or if I get on a plane and I'm flying somewhere, do I really want to do all this stuff? And I think most comedians will tell you it's a drag, which is sad. I do enjoy the traveling. Like I've been to Appleton a couple times, and it's a sweet city, man. I love what's that bar? Cleo's? Is that the bar?
Yeah,
with the Christmas lights.
That's like a martini or the martini place.
I think so.
It is, right?
I fucking love that bar, man.
Yeah,
and then I went to some. You guys have a very large what is it? Hmong population.
Hmong, yes.
Yeah, yes. There was some weird after hours bar that I went to where me and the other comedian, we were the only white people in that bar. And I was about 2 feet taller than everybody in there too. I was not hiding, and it was super awesome. And I'm like, why is this happening in Appleton, Wisconsin? But there I was. And that's the weird shit that you get when you travel and you meet new people and you see different things. And I loved all that. And I love performing, and I love writing, and I love connecting with people, like connecting with you guys. It's great, but there's just the business end. And until you get to a certain level, it's kind of a grind, and I'm not a fan of it. So then it becomes, I got to reevaluate. Like, what am I going to do now? So,
that's one of the things, the traveling portion of being a comedian.
Yeah.
You know, you hear comedians say how they're always on the road, and, you know, they're not with their wife, or just one day they're with their wife, and then you see their next comedy special, they're divorced and stuff like that. And it's kind of weird, just like what happens when you travel that affects relationships and stuff for a comedian. Like, if you want to speculate or anything.
Did he freeze?
Oh, did he freeze? He even have froze. Yeah, I think he froze, Jesse. You want to try to get him back?
Yeah.
Okay. So, everybody...
Hang up.
You're back.
Oh, there we go.
I was just getting ready to hang up, and then you guys showed up again.
Oh, it's probably Skype catching up.
What were you asking?
Like the traveling aspect. I mentioned, like, you'll see a comedian, they're married 1 year, and then next time they'll do a special, they come back, and then they're getting a divorce. Do you think that the traveling is sometimes just their occupation of being a comedian hurts that relationship and stuff?
Probably. I think you need to have a very stable, significant other who is.
Oh, he froze again.
Yeah. Skype. Gotta love it.
Oh, funny to me, a comedian will come in and they'll have their significant other with them, and I'm like, oh, you got busted for cheating. That's what happened, and that's why they're here. So it's hard. It's a hard life for everybody, you know, for the comedian and for the significant other. It's not agreeable. And I think most comedians will tell you they want to get off the road. They would prefer to have, you know, be in town for 3 weeks out of the month, or they're doing a television show or whatever. Like, comedians want to do that. They want to do TV and movies. You don't see a movie actor going, hey, I want to do stand-up comedy and get on the road. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So did you? We'll do the. We were gonna talk a little bit about just being on a radio. Yeah.
Oh, so okay, sure.
So yes, it seems that you were on radio for a while. Can you tell us about that experience?
That was great, because for me, that was kind of the thing of like, oh, if I get this radio job, then I can be off the road. It's still an entertainment outlet. I'm here in town. It's regular income. Because that's the weird thing with comedy, too, of like, I can be in Appleton, Wisconsin this week, and then a year from now, who knows if I'll be back in Appleton, Wisconsin or not. So, but the radio gig, that's stable, of like Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 or whatever it was. And I was the second banana. So, you know, I'm just kind of feeding the main host, Eric Zane, of like, here's some jokes. This is what we can talk about, this or that. And I would have loved it. And then it didn't happen.
Oh, wow.
So, what are you going to do, man? You know, it was there. It was an opportunity. I really appreciate Eric having given me the opportunity to be a part of it. And then they just went in a different direction. So what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it was amazing. Like, I absolutely loved when you were on it, like, because I think that was some of my favorite, you know, like, because you know, don't get me wrong, like I enjoyed everyone that's been on the show throughout the whole time of, you know, kind of everything changing up, but like you know, like that's why you're kind of here today, is like, for whatever reason, you know, like your personality. I think what it was is I could tell that it was like, you know, kind of a similar to me kind of thing in some ways. That so like your personality on the show kind of, you know, interested me on that.
Struck a chord with you, huh?
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I always looked at it too. Eric, the main host, he and I are the same age. We're both white dudes. But beyond that, I don't think he and I could have been more polar opposites, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he was married with a whole bunch of kids. He had a successful radio career. I've never been married. I got 0 kids, not successful at all. He's way more conservative, packs a gun all the goddamn time. I'm like, couldn't be more farther away from that. You know, I'm fairly liberal. I want nothing to do with guns. And so we would have been good foils.
Yeah,
but I guess they couldn't get past the middle-aged white guy thing, and they're whatever. I had fun, man. I had fun.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do, right? Radio for me was challenging though, because it's the whole thing of like, it's very quick. You only have certain slots, and you can't say certain words. Like I guess I should have asked you guys if I could swear or not on your podcast.
No, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. Yeah. You couldn't swear on the radio, and that's never been a problem for. I like swearing. I can't lie. I love swearing, but that's something you can't do on the radio either. So you got to be innuendo and strange and goofy, and you're hanging out with callers too. So I loved all that stuff. It'd be great to get another opportunity. I just don't ever think that's going to happen though. Radio's becoming weird, very corporate.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because radio now is like what kind of early 2000s when podcasts were starting out, you know. Radio now is pretty much podcast if you take out the music and the commercials. If you just edit everything, you're literally listening to a podcast, you're listening to a conversation. And it changes up and down, and maybe you might have segments where you want to find out why this person's not calling you back, or donkey of the day, what stupid thing this person did and stuff. And you hear that, it's just like, wow, I'm enjoying this show more without everything that's the extra stuff. It's just like a podcast. Have there's ever been moments where when you were on the radio show that both of you guys just laughed out, like you had a moment where you just fell out laughing or anything?
With Eric, I mean, there were some dumb things. There was the I don't know, Jesse, if you remember this or not. There were these kids in Clio, Michigan, and they threw like a brick or a rock over an overpass, and it hit someone, and the person died, and everybody was making this big deal about it, and it was very, very awful. But I was like, the kids are innocent. We got to free the Clio 5, and I was sticking to my guns about it, and it was more kind of like I'm being devil's advocate here. I know I know I'm not right, but I'm going to say this because it makes for interesting conversation, and it makes people hate me. So that's that's the good part of radio. But you need the foil. You need someone to be the jerk or the asshole or whatever. And I know Eric loved it, and I loved it, and it was just fun, man. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially because I listened to the Free Beer and Hot Wings show, obviously, and that's where I'd found out about Eric, and got to meet him at a live morning show a couple of times.
Nice.
And all that, but but yeah, like it was kind of funny seeing Eric almost take a different, like, I mean, he still was him, but you almost got to step into that, like, that goofy over the top kind of character that he was originally on their show. And it was kind of funny sometimes because it seemed like I would think to myself, I wonder if Eric is holding himself back right now because he probably wants to agree with you on some of that stuff.
He was holding himself back. But that's the thing. Like, now this is his show. He's got to be the captain of the show. He can't be the dude flying off the handle. Yes. So, I'm sure it was very hard for him because he was the guy on Free Beer Howings. I'm going to take a hand grenade and throw it in there and let's see what happens, right? Yeah. And create chaos. And so my job as the second banana, I was sort of the guy creating the disturbance, the problems or whatever. So, it was fun for me. So,
yeah.
And how long did you do the radio show?
It wasn't very long. I sat in with him for 2 weeks at a time that were just straight. And then it was kind of like intermittent filling in when some guy was sick or they needed someone else to pop in. So it wasn't a whole lot. There were some call-ins that I did with him. I did a lot of topic research for him as well, too. Because I was thinking, like, okay, if nothing else, if I'm not on the radio right now, like they haven't determined whether or not they're going to hire me or someone else, this is what I can do. Every day I went and I researched for like 1 to 2 hours, like topics that would be good for the show. Like there were 30 websites that I looked at every day. Like, this is shit that you could or should talk about. And he used a whole bunch of them. So I felt like I was, even though I wasn't on air, I felt like I was contributing to the show. So.
Yeah.
And then listener call. Oh, go ahead, Jesse, because I got.
I was gonna say, I was gonna bring us into kind of like your podcast, if you don't mind, Ed, because we could probably kind of bring this to an end here soon, because we're at almost an hour. So, because
I was going to ask him about listener calls, just like. What is it about listener calls that make a show interesting?
I loved them. Because you never knew what the idiot was gonna say. You had absolutely no idea. And I would be sitting across the board from Eric, just staring at him like, what the fuck is this moron talking about? Like, they would just be completely off base, or they would talk about something that we had talked about like 5 segments ago. And where have you been, dude? And one of my favorite things was there was a character who became a big part of the show was Throat/Dale. And Dale called in on one of the days for the very first time when I was talking with Eric. And he called in and he talks like this, and very strange, recognizable voice. And then we just started finding things out about him, how he was in prison for selling drugs, and he got in a fight, and some dude slashed his throat, and that's why he talks like that. And now he's out, and I'm sober, and I'm a life coach. It was all like, what is going on with this dude? And to this day, Eric's podcast, he's very much a big part of Eric's podcast. And so I got to be a part of the initial thing of here's this weirdo caller who's now become something else. It was great.
Yeah, it's like, it reminded me, because Eric's, obviously he's always been a really big fan of Howard Stern and stuff, and I could definitely see in his personality, some of that influence almost of Howard Stern. And so like when all that stuff was going on, I always thought it, right away, the Whack Pack, the Howard Stern, it was basically, it's like he had his, it's like, it was that kind of thing. Yeah. The
Zaniacs are the Whack Pack. They're a weird assortment of lunatics who are very dedicated to Eric. And that's, I told Eric, I'm like, that is fantastic for you that you have these guys that are always going to have your back. So it's, I mean, how many radio people really have that? Not a ton.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times when you're going from station to station, or like you get those dedicated following fans, but like some of the bigger shows, there's not exactly. I mean, you have social media, but a lot of times all that has to change if you go to a different radio station. Right. and sometimes you might get lost in the and like because there's just so much radio stations and talk shows and all that out there, like and I feel like with what he does, like he's had a chance to kind of keep a lot of those people that were big fans still in contact with him, because he didn't just go to another big radio station somewhere or whatever and get lost in the fray. So
right. I think it was hard for him when he initially left, and then he went the format that he was on, a sports talk show or a sports talk station, was not a great format for him to be on. I don't think the station did him any favors either in terms of like advertising for the show and kind of promoting the show in that capacity. They kind of put it all on. This is Eric Zane. You guys know him. He's a celebrity in town. And while he was a big cheese for sure in Grand Rapids, there's still a level of we got to do our part as the radio station. So they didn't do him anything. But I mean, if you were to talk to him today too, he's like, things couldn't be better for me. And I believe it. Him doing his podcast, being in charge of everything, good for him.
Yeah.
So we get into your LMNO podcast.
Oh boy!
I was watching one of your comedy skits, and you were just like, yes, just abbreviate something with LMNO, and let it stand for lick my nuts or penis, or for you ladies, lick my nips or pussy. And I was just like, wait, what?
Yes.
My eyes widened. And so when I heard that you had a podcast called LMNO, I was just like, this is interesting. So, because I just watched your recent one. You have A-Hole of the Day.
Yeah.
You guys tried Cotton Candy Faygo. And let me tell you, Faygo, it depends on what flavor. It depends on what gas station you go to. Faygo is only at gas stations. It's never. Am I wrong? It's never in a grocery store.
Well, there it is. There it is in Michigan because they make it there.
It's made in Detroit.
Really?
Yeah.
Faygo's made in Detroit. That's why it's the big thing with the Juggalos.
Yeah.
The Juggalos are out of Detroit, and they love their Faygo. So, cotton candy is gross, though, Ed. Never have it. Never have it.
I listened to it because you were just like, it was blue.
Yes.
Something. I'm like, don't Faygo have like 8 drinks that is blue, like blue raspberry?
Yes.
But they do have some bomb flavors. When you say
Rock and Rye is still the best.
Yeah, Rock and Rye is great.
That one is good
for sure.
But how did LMNO start? Like, how did you get into the podcast world?
It originally had a different name. It was called Studio 1534, and Stu and Studio, and then 1534 is my house number. So that's where it was that. And it initially became because I was the house MC at the comedy club, and I'm just like, I should just interview these guys. So pretty much Studio 1534 was me interviewing the comedians that came into Dr. Grins every week. So if you were to go search it and you were to find it, I would tell you, don't waste your time. Don't look for it. They're all garbage, but they're up there. I've interviewed some pretty big name comedians who some for whatever reason agreed to talk with me. And then it just changed. Someone said, hey, you should call it the LMNOPodcast. And I'm like, all right, that fits with my stupid joke. So then it became less about interviewing comedians and more about me just yelling and swearing and being an idiot. That's pretty much what it is.
What did the bill tell the quarter? I don't know. Be the change you want to be. I was just like, oh, wow, that's such a dad-grown joke.
Yeah, it was awful. Good. It was a very awful joke, and I don't know why I said it out loud, Ed. I apologize.
But
it was good for coming up with it on the top of your head.
Exactly, it was.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, so now, I mean, ultimately it's just me yelling, and I don't have to worry about it because it's kind of like, if you guys like it, great. And if you don't like it, great. I mean, nobody's really paying me for anything. It's more, for me, it's a creative outlet where I can sit down with Jamie and I can sit down with Jason whenever he comes back from self-isolation. Yeah. And, it's fun. It's fun for me. Like, hopefully you guys find your podcast fun.
We look forward to it. Especially doing, like, we didn't do stuff like this that we're doing now on the previous network that we were in, and we kind of left. Like, everything that happened, and then we created our own, the three of us, and now we've just kind of been building stuff up. But yeah, we love doing this, and like one thing I was gonna say about with your podcast, that like I can also kind of see where it would have been like the perfect, like if you said you loved doing the radio show quite a bit, and like I really feel like that's almost what it was, is like an evolution of like taking what you normally do as a comedian, and then the radio stuff.
You're back.
Oh
yes.
Oh yeah, like
you
taking
froze,
what you
and then you came back real quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what you did as a comedian, and then what you did on the radio show, and it's kind of like a mixture of those two things kind of together, and that's what your podcast is.
I feel comfortable doing it. Yeah. I enjoy doing it, and I feel and it's just one of those things of I tell so many people are doing podcasts now, and I don't encourage everybody to do a podcast, but don't go into it thinking that you're going to get rich or famous. It probably is not going to happen. So you got to go in doing it like, I'm going to have some fun, and if some people pay attention to it and have fun with me, hooray, we did it, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to get rich or famous from it, but I enjoy doing it. So there we go.
Yeah.
It's always feeling like you're part of the conversation. You're hearing the discussion, and you may agree with the person who might give their opinion or not, but it's just like you come back and you want to see what else they got to say about stuff, or maybe I could send my 2 cents in by email or call in or whatever, and feel like I'm part of the podcast and stuff. Me and Corey, we still, even Jesse, still get questions today on how to start a podcast, how to create the content and stuff. And we literally just tell people, just go for it. Find out what you love to talk about. Research what you can, make a format, go in with a plan, or if you feel like you don't need nothing like that and you could just go in and talk, do that. But I'm like, know that, like you said, you're not going to get rich or famous or anything, but at the time, build. Because even if you came out and you hit it big time, the hardest thing to do is to maintain that and grow from there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we always say go and have fun with it. You may never, throughout all the years, you may never get nobody, or you may get 2 or 3 listeners, but continue to do what you love to do until you feel like, you know what, I said all I could say. I'm going to put it to rest. I'm going to do my final episode and move on from there.
Sure.
Or do something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We talked before about Eric Zane's fans. They're called Zaniacs.
Yeah.
Like I have my fans, I call them the 6-member mafia, because I like to say I have 6 listeners, and that's it. So, you keep it low, man. It's low. Got low expectations. I got 6 people who listen, and they're the only ones that I care about. So.
Yes.
Well, and like you were saying, if you're doing it like for yourself and you're having fun, and and people love what you're talking about, and you get big fans like that, that's really like you hope someone likes what you're doing, and if they do, like you're very appreciative of it, and that's all that that's all that matters. And I feel like like you do it that way, not expecting to try to make money or any of that stuff. And I think your show will be better if you're not pushing, because you can get to a point where you're pushing yourself too hard to try to be something that maybe you're not going to live up to, and then you're only making it stressful for yourself. Like this is, for us, it's just talking. We're just friends talking on the internet, like that's all it is to us. And we're glad that people enjoy it,
I can't lie, fellas. I would totally sell out. If someone gave me a lot of money, I would sell out in a heartbeat.
That Joe Rogan mess was nonsense. I'm like, Spotify, you paid them what to do what? I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm like, I have nothing against Joe Rogan. He is what he is. He says what he needs to say. But I'm not paying that money to have that craziness on on a network like that.
I don't quite get where he gets his fans, but good for him. He did something right.
Yeah.
I guess, but I couldn't do it.
I guess you're not one of those fans, Ed, huh?
I listened to him for the longest time, and then I don't know. I just got to a certain point where I wasn't finding it funny anymore, or like, I mean, there's still people that are associated with him that I love, like Bert Kreischer and stuff.
Sure. Oh.
And even Duncan Trussell, man, he is one weird human being. But yeah, he's way out in space. Like,
he's perfect for Joe Rogan then. He's perfect.
Yeah.
I just feel like from what he did on the TV to what he got into his podcast, I feel like there was a change. And it's just like, I don't know, something about his vibe and what he does just don't. Not saying I don't want to be connected to that or I don't want to look at it or anything, but it's just like, this is a vibe that I don't feel like dealing with.
Yeah, sure. It's not for me either.
Yeah.
You know, there may be people who enjoy what he does and stuff. I'm just like, but I'm like, right now, nah, I can't mess with your vibe. I got too much of a good vibe, and I don't need your energy ruining that vibe with your podcast.
You seem like a pretty happy dude, Ed.
I am. I pretty much.
How do you do it, Ed? How do you stay happy? Tell me your secret.
It's actually just having fun. Actually, you know, podcasting, writing, doing everything that I love to do, and regardless of what the comments are and everything, I always say this. I'm always thankful for whether I get something positive or negative. You know, me and Jesse could go back and forth and be like, but I always tell Jesse, hey, let's go to Taco Bell, or let's play some Call of Duty. Like Jesse would tell you, we have had some discussions, and the next following night from 1 a.m. to 3 p.m. us on Xbox Live having a good conversation like it ain't nothing. And I tell Jesse, I'm like, good morning, or what's up, bro, here, or I'll call him and FaceTime him while he's at work, and like really laugh, and just like, did you hear the news? Did you do like? Yeah. And we literally, there's been times that we had such a good conversation that we end up leaving it and be like, we should have podcast that.
We should have recorded this.
I often say, save it for the podcast. I often say that with David. Like, save it for the podcast. Don't talk about it. Save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
That's great. And by the way, have a good relationship. That makes the podcast better.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of I really like the dynamic between you and Jamie. I've really been enjoying the last.
That's good. Some people think I yell at her too much. Hopefully, they realize that's a lot of shtick. So
and I mean, you can tell because she does that very good job of kind of ignoring you at times and just rolling over what you're saying.
It's just like, is he drunk? Like the latest episode, I was just like, is he drunk? Like, because he's like, I'm like, wait, what is going on with this?
Yeah, I know. I apologize. It's very unprofessional, Ed. It's very unprofessional.
Keep doing what you're doing. It was just like, wait, is he? It was just like,
That's what he wants you to do. He wants you to be like, what is this guy doing?
But I'm weeding out people who don't get it.
But it's entertaining and I love it. I'm just like, okay, I get what he's doing, but like, it was just weird. I have never heard a podcast where a person starts all sounding drunk or being it's just like, wait, huh? Like, it's something new to me, but when you get it, you be like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah.
Stu's being an idiot again. All right, we're going to go with it. Okay. I appreciate it. Well, thank you guys for listening to the last episode. I appreciate it.
Yes. But so before we go, Stu, would you like to plug anything? Where can people find you? Where can they listen to the podcast? Or
it's LMNOPodcast. It's as simple as that. You can find it on probably most podcast platforms. So hopefully it's out there somewhere, easily accessible to you guys. And then me, social media, Twitter and Instagram. It's a Stu McCallister, and STUMCCALLISTER. And I say dumb things. And on Instagram right now, it's just me putting up weird signs in my window. I have crayons and a lot of time. So that's what it's been lately. So
We
all right.
speaking of, we 2 houses down from us, people like very, very early on, they wrote up, they had, it looked like kids colored letters and put them in the windows, and it said that what's her name from the Tiger King, Carol Baskin. Yeah, Carol Baskin killed her husband or did it or something like that. Yes. They had up in their window, and it was like a big thing in town here. People were loving it.
That's funny.
And now she has his park.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know
how that happened, but good for her, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mess, but
very much.
Yeah. There was something else I was gonna say, but I can't think. Oh, I was gonna say, if you're ever in Appleton, I'll definitely, like, if I find out, if you ever do come back into Appleton,
I'll let you know.
I would love to see you live.
For sure, man. It's a good time, and I really love the Skyline. The Skyline in Appleton is great. I've been there twice now. I love it. It's a good place, man. Which is weird because you wouldn't think in Appleton, Wisconsin, they would have a great club, but they do.
Yeah, and it's just such a unique little weird looking building. That's like they've got the brewer or it's like a brewery downstairs and a restaurant that's a brewery, and it's an amazing little place. But we used to have one right outside of Appleton, and I think it was Menasha. It was but that one unfortunately closed down. That was a really good one too, unfortunately. But I don't know what all happened with that, but it was kind of a bummer when we found that out because we had been to both of them.
Owners fighting with each other is what it was.
Yeah.
Co-owners of Skyline, and then they broke off and they tried to compete, and that town's not big enough, man.
Yeah, because my wife actually, that was one of probably my all-time favorite birthday presents I've ever got in my life, is my wife secretly had bought tickets for us to go see Tom Green there.
Oh wow!
And great. So I just loved Tom. I was right in that perfect age where I grew up watching him on MTV and stuff, and and he actually, we were in the front row, so he actually talked to me and at one point and stuff. So it was great. But
nice. Well, Jesse, where can we find you?
You can find me almost everywhere as Phantom NXS.
You guys can find me on Twitter at @VentureCode. You can check out more 1v1 on BossRushGames.com, on our YouTube page, Boss Rush Games. Check out Nintendo Power Block, Boss Rush Podcast, Arsenal X, Optional Opinion on SoundCloud, and more of our other content here on Boss Rush Games. Once again, check out Stu's podcast, the LMNO Podcast.
It's a mouthful.
You can find... Yes, you can find it actually on SoundCloud. That's how I found it. Apple Podcasts and more. Once again, everybody, let's continue to play games, be better to one another, definitely during this time. Thank you, Stu, for coming on and laughing with us and giving us great comedy and just talking to us. So with that, everybody, we will see you next time on 1v1. Bye.